I was just keeping an eye on her. I stayed up the whole like half of the night keeping an eye on her until she dozed off. Then that's when the night terror started, and she was screaming and crying. And then that point right there, she finally told me, I see some people behind you. And then when she said that, I looked behind me, and there's a wall right there. There's a wall in our wood stove that's right there. And I looked back over there. I was like, there's nothing, Mom. There's nothing right there. She's like, I see them right there. There's 3 of them. And then I was like, okay, I can't see them, so you got to describe them to me. And she said, there's one that's small. It's small and chubby. And she said the other one's really tall. I told her, show me, like, with your hand, show me the height of it. And the way she kind of showed me was like about a good 3 feet off the ground. And then she said the other one standing next to it, it's a little shorter and it's skinny. And she said they're just laughing at me and looking at me. And she said the chubby one's poking out from beside you like that, poking its head out beside you. And then I was like, okay. And then I remember my dad kind of taught me some stuff, and I went to the wood stove and I grabbed some ashes and I threw it in that general area. And she started screaming. It's like someone like stabbed her, or she was like in some horrific pain, and she started screaming. And she said, they're leaving, they're screaming. She said, don't do that. And I was like, I'm trying to help you. I don't know what to do. I'm just trying to help you.
I'm Rye, your Codega, here to lead you through the shadows of the unknown. My journeys have carried me across hidden corners of the world to places steeped in wonder, whispers, and unanswered questions. Walk with me as we uncover ancient civilizations, unravel unexplained phenomena, and chase the legends that refuse to die. Welcome to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. Welcome back to another episode of Codega's Codex of Curiosities. I'm Rye the Codega, here to guide you through some of the unexplained, the mysterious, and just plain weird and terrifying. And, you know, it's funny. Some topics I can just jump right into, no problems. And then there's ones where just talking about it sometimes, it's a little terrifying. It's a little off. And this is going to be one of those. Tonight's guest is going to be talking about something that, depending on who you ask, some will just say, oh, it's just a story, or it's just a campfire story, or something you shouldn't be too casual to talk about, something you shouldn't even mention. So yeah, we're going there. We're talking about skinwalkers. But this isn't kind of like the Hollywood type of way we're going to be doing this. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty and the actuality of it. We're also going to get into something else I didn't know much about until tonight, which is a hand trembler. You're going to want to stick around to learn more about that. So tonight, we're going to have one of those conversations where you just kind of sit back, listen, and just try to take it all. I mean, this one is intense. And okay, before we get into that, I want to reach out to you, the listeners, the viewers. If you're looking to support the show, I always ask, okay, can you guys share the show? Can you guys hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit the bell for notifications, give me a 5-star review. And of course, I'm going to be asking that as usual. But also, if you want another way of supporting the show, I have a Amazon wish list, okay? If you're like, I really want to help you out, we want to step this show up. New camera. Let's get a newer camera. Make this a little bit better. Well, I have an Amazon wish list. It is linked down below. Click on that and see if there's something that you want to send. And I would be extremely grateful for that. It can help up this show to the next level. All right. Now, let's get into it. All right, everyone. Let's welcome Lee to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. Lee, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rye. Thanks for having me.
Yes. I'm very happy to have you. I was on the live with Don't Whisper at Night podcast with the guys there, and you were in the chat, and they said, I gotta have you on. You have some amazing stories, and also to talk about. Please correct me if I'm wrong, which I'm sure I am. Something like trembling hands, the trembling hands.
Oh yeah, hand trembling. It's a type
Hand
of
trembling.
it's a type of I wouldn't say medicine man, but it's a
Okay.
way of being something like that, I guess you can say.
Okay. So before we jump into that, Lee, why don't you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit, quick little bio about yourself, and if you have any irons in the fire that you want to share with my listeners and viewers, by all means, please go ahead.
Well, my name is Lee, and I'm from New Mexico, the Navajo Nation to be exact, and I'm a team member of Don't Whistle at Night podcast. Yeah, helped them out with investigations and try to do the best I can.
Fantastic. Yeah, I hooked up with them a while back. I had oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. I've had both of them on my show,
Yeah,
and they have some amazing experiences, like terrifying as well. This is something we don't hear of too much, but there's a dark side to the spiritual warfare that we're kind of fighting right now, and I feel like the Navajo Nation and the natives are bear witness to it all far more than many of us do. And if you want to jump into any of your experiences, I know you had sent me some pictures, and we can put those up as we're talking as well. But I was like, what is this? Is a head of a coyote?
yeah.
Yeah, please, let's jump into this.
So I guess I'll start off when I was pretty young. As far back as I can remember, maybe when I was like about maybe 6 to like 10 years old or something like that. It was I could see things at night, stuff that normally other people's gonna see, and it was just mainly like people kind of looking in at the window and hearing stuff at night. I used to hear a lot of stuff at night, and growing up on the reservation, you'll hear a lot of things at nighttime, and that was like the main thing that I would always experience up until I was like about maybe 12 to 14 years old, somewhere around the area. One
And
night I was
if you
playing
don't mind me asking, Lee, those when you said like you could see things looking in the window, were they people? Were they creatures? What was looking in the window?
to be honest, it was more of people. Um, I used to tell my parents about it, but they always kind of just brush it off and just told me you're just imagining things, seeing things, and I was like, okay. So I got that stuck in my head, and yeah, it was like that for a long time, and yeah, it was I would always see things on the side of the road, and I would like kind of point it out to my dad, but then he'll be like, "There's nothing there," and then I was like, "Okay, well, just leave it alone then." And then, like I was explaining a while ago, fast forward to when I was like 12, 14. I was up late one night and I was playing a video game, and it was like about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and I was playing a shooting video game. So I was hearing like a tapping, and I thought it was coming from the game. And then I paused the game, and it stopped. And then I started playing again, like a couple more times, and I kept hearing it until like the third or fourth time I paused the game, and I would hear that tapping. And then I was just like kind of looking around, like, what the heck is going on? And then my mom was sleeping, so I didn't want to wake her up. And I got up from the couch and I walked to where the sound was coming from, and it was coming from the kitchen window. And then I kind of peeked towards it, and then I just seen an old lady's hand tapping on the window, and it was like really long nails, and she was just tapping on the window repeatedly. And then that freaked me out because I didn't know what it was. And then the fact that the dogs didn't start barking, because we had like about 4 or 5 dogs outside at the time, and the fact that it got that close to the house without alerting them, and it was like, yeah, it freaked me out because of that. And then I seen it for like about a good 15, 20 seconds, and I heard it run off. And we had like gravel on the side of the house, and you can hear it run off. And just then, that's when the dog started running after it and barking at it. So seeing that, I was pretty scared. So I ended up turning off the game and just going to bed after that. But then I woke up a couple hours later, and just then the sun came up, and I went outside. And I wanted to see if there's any it left any tracks or anything. So I was looking around, and I would say about maybe a good 100 feet from the house, north of the house, I found this area where there was sand, and it was human footprints leading up to it. And then it went about another 15, 20 feet, and then it looked like it fell over, and it rolled. As it was rolling for a good 2 to 3 feet, it turned into an animal, I'm assuming, because from there it led off into dog tracks. And that ran up towards the hills where there's a bunch of rocks and areas where it's not going to leave any tracks at. So from there on, I didn't bother to look for it.
That's actually, so you were around 14 years old, you said, when that happened?
Yeah, about 12 or 14.
That's pretty brave to be going out there, and let's find this,
Yeah.
But I guess you had your dogs out there as well.
Not really. It was just me by myself. Yeah.
Seeing that hand, though, holy cow, that is something that is out of like horror movies, this old long claw. You could almost like long clawed, almost like a woman's hand is just tapping at the window. Okay. And did you have any idea who that might be? Was there any inclination of like, did something pop in your head that maybe it's this person or it's this thing?
I didn't know who it was, but I knew what it was. And in our language, we call them Yenakaloshi. That's to translate it, it's he who walks on all fours. And that's basically saying Skinwalker in Navajo. And I knew what it was, but I didn't know who it was until my dad came home from work a couple days later. And I told him about it. I told my mom, but she comes from a Christian background, so she doesn't really believe it. And my dad is more of a traditional type, so that's why I told him. And there's a little rumor that's kind of floating around from where we're from. And there's an older couple that do that kind of stuff at night. And that rumor's been going around ever since I've been around. And that's who he kind of pointed towards. Not to kind of be mean or anything, but that's who he said it might have been. And to this day, they're still doing that stuff, as far as I know.
And they were an older couple when you were younger, and they're still around doing that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So when I was young, I think they were like about 50, and up to now, I think they're almost about 80, in their 80s almost. Yeah.
So I have a question. Why do you think they were knocking at the window to get your attention? Because specifically, it had to have been for you. And then also you're seeing these things, you're having these visions, not necessarily visions, but you're seeing other things that others can't. Why do you feel that you have that ability, or why they're coming to you? Do you have a feeling about that?
So, I guess I'll get into it more of that later on when I'm explaining more of the hand trembling part. But the main reason is over land. It's like a land dispute kind of thing, because over on the reservation we have things called home site leases, and my family kind of owns a big portion of the land that we're on, and those people that live on it have those home site leases. And the person that I'm talking about, the couple, kind of don't want to admit that we own the land, so they're kind of jealous over it. And over time, skinwalking has turned into the way it is because of jealousy. Jealousy and hatred is the main thing that it thrives from. So that's the reason why I'm assuming that it came that night, because my grandma and my uncle have similar experiences of it as well, of that same person. So
Really?
that's one of the main reasons why.
I'd love
Yeah.
to hear about those experiences as well.
It'd be kind of hard because they passed away like about 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, let's move forward then from here then.
Okay. So fast forwarding, I'm assuming it wasn't exactly them all the time that I would be seeing, but fast forward a couple of years when I got my driver's license, my mom actually got sick, and she didn't like the hospital here in where we're from, so she wanted to go to a nearby hospital. So I ended up driving her there, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we stayed over there pretty late, and we came back around midnight-ish, about midnight. As we're kind of driving up to the house, I noticed that there was like, because we had these like tall bushes on the side of the road, and I noticed that there was like eyes right there. And then I thought it was like those reflectors, like from that signal, like there's a fence or something. And then it's my house, so I'm like, there's nothing right there. Yeah, and then I was just looking at it, and I noticed it moved like this, and it moved sideways, like it was swaying side to side, and then it blinked. And then I looked at my girlfriend at the time, and she was sleeping, and then she woke up. And then just then, my mom started crying in pain. And then I was like, "Did you see that?" And then she's like, "Yeah, I just saw a glimpse of it." And then she's like, "What was that?" And then I don't know, because it kind of started moving up and down, and it just turned away, and you could see the bushes move. So I quickly drove up to the house, and I grabbed my dad's gun, and I walked down there with a flashlight, and I was just shining around. I was just looking around, trying to find anything, and then my cousin brother showed up, and then I told him about what we saw, and then he backed up his truck and he reversed it towards where the direction it kind of ran, and we were shining lights over there, and then way off in the distance you can see the eye shine, and it was like I guess I would say whistling at us, but it was just very faint. And then that's when I pulled the rifle up and I took a couple of shots at it. But then it didn't get scared. Normally anything would get scared, even an animal. But this time it didn't run
Even
off.
a person, yeah. If it was a person, I'd be like, I'm out of here. Yes.
Yeah. So that happened that night, and then later on there was something running on top of the house, but my mom kind of got after me because I was about to go back outside again and check on it. She told me they're going to cushion you. Don't just leave it alone. So.
And when you heard it running on top of the house, did it sound like it was bipedal or a quadruped? On four legs. Was it on four legs or two legs?
I would say bipedal because, but whatever it was heavy because it was stomping on the roof. Like it was just trying to get my attention.
So it wasn't like a bird or something like that. No, this was something. Okay.
Yeah. It was an actual person. I knew what it was. That's
terrifying to be hearing that kind of thing, and having those events going on. And you're like, yep, I know what this is.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I grew up around all that stuff, and I probably have about maybe 30 to like 60 stories of stuff that happened just growing up, and a bunch of stories that's been passed down to me and just told by my elders,
I can respect that. Like the storytelling is how we used to pass on our history, and that was how we passed on our history and our customs and our legends and whatnot. And it was a tradition that I find that is still upheld in the natives, but for us other people in the modern world, we don't do that. We don't do that anymore. And I think we really need to get back to that because I find our history has been perverted and changed and manipulated to serve other means. And we don't have like our story keepers anymore that actually held the truth and were able to pass it down. So I totally respect that.
Yeah, I've been listening to your podcast for a while now. So after Don mentioned it to me a while back, so I here and there I'll listen to it when I'm at work.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah. You know, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do is continue that storytelling kind of thing. It's not me who's telling the stories, but I give everybody a platform to tell their
Yeah,
story and their experience. And I think it's very important that we do that. I don't ever question the validity of the experience. I know it happened. You can tell when people are
mm,
when people are talking to you, you can hear it in their voice and how they're telling you you know it happened, but I will ask questions about what happened. Let's get into more
yeah.
detail. Let's find this. But and speaking of which, let's what comes next. So after this creature has run on the roof, and your mom's like, no, 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 you're staying inside. Um, what was did anything else happen that night?
No, nothing else happened that night for about a month or so. Yeah, about a month or so, and then um so here on the reservation we have a lot of animals, livestock, cattle, horses, sheep, and my family we were when I was growing up we were sheep herders. So I guess I can get into this right now because it kind of happened during the same time period. But my mom was actually being haunted, I would say, by Anasazi. So and from those don't
And what
know
is an
anything about.
Anasazi? Is that a Bigfoot or
No, it's actually there's a lot of theories about it going around. I mean,
'cause I've
you
heard
read
that
one.
term before. I've heard that term before, and I'm like, where have I heard that? How do I know that?
Like I said, there's a lot of theories of it, and there's a lot of different perspectives over it. But from I guess from my side of the reservation, they're an old tribe that used to be around from 1300 to 1500, 80, I would say. So like a long time ago. But it's like a lost tribe, I would say, and they just disappeared. Everybody says they don't know what happened to them. They don't know what killed them off, or if they migrated, or if they just actually just disappeared, like they just vanished. But their houses are still around, their pottery, and yeah, that's all still around. That's like um
So something
historic
happened,
landmarks around here.
and yeah, so something happened, and they just disappeared. But it seems like their spirit or something like that is still what you're saying is like their spirit is still around, more or less. Is that
Yeah,
what was like hunting your mom?
yeah, because when she was herding sheep, I didn't go with her at the time, and she found this pottery. It was like a perfect round pottery. It was still intact and everything. I don't know where she really found it at. She when she tells me, she kind of says two different stories, but they're still similar. So she says she found it, and I guess there's a like an arroyo where she found it next to, and where the water kind of runs down whenever there's a monsoon, and she put it in there, and she broke some brushes and she covered it with that, and she came home and she told my uncle about it, and my uncle was like, we can get a lot of money from that if we sell it to like to a trading post or something, that someone that's willing to pay a lot of money for that. And then they're like, okay, let's do it then. So the next day they went back over there, and the pottery was gone, and there's no tracks that go up to it. There's nothing. The brushes weren't moved or anything, but the pottery was gone.
So the brushes that your
And
mom had like laid out
yeah,
were still there,
yeah, it was still
and
exactly in the same spot. Yeah, and it just disappeared. And she doesn't know what happened to it. My uncle assumed she hit it, and he kind of got upset with her and everything, but she claimed she never moved it. So, I would say like about a month or two later, yeah, about a month or two later, she started getting really, really bad night terrors, like to the point where she would wake up screaming and crying, and it would happen for like 5 minutes, and then it started progressing to like 15 to like an hour, 2 hours a night, all the way to the point where she could not sleep. And she didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on because I really didn't know what it was at the time, because I was barely getting more into my tradition. And she would go to the hospital for it, and the hospital just claimed her as a schizophrenic. So that was the only logical conclusion they can come up to. And it just kept progressing and progressing to the point where she kind of became a whole different person. She became really mean. She just would just space out, and then she would just start laughing hysterically. And I'm like over here, like freaking, like trying not to freak out because I didn't know what was going on. And then it got to the point where one day, I forgot what me and my cousin brother were doing, but we're sitting at the table. I think we were playing a card game or something. And she was sleeping. She was taking a nap. This was like about 3 PM, and she just sat up from the nap. She just sat up. She just looked around like this, and she just looked at us. She just glanced at us, and then she just got up, and she just walked out the door without saying a word or without saying anything. And she just walked out. And I looked at my cousin brother. I was like, what the heck? Like, she just do that? And then I knew the sheep were already in the corral. They were already put in the pen. They were already set for the evening. And I was like, what is she doing? And then I got up a couple of minutes later and I went to check on her. And I seen her walking up the hill. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what is she doing? And then I told my cousin brother, I said, I'm going to go after her. I said, if we're not back in like 10, 15 minutes, go ahead and lock the door. And if we're not back in an hour, go come looking for us or whatever. And he's okay. And then sure enough, I followed her. I finally caught up to her. It took me like 20 minutes to finally catch up to her. And she just kept walking towards the mountain. She just kept walking. And when I caught up to her, it was not my mom. And she just had this weird look on her face, like she was like hypnotized or some kind of trance. And I was trying to talk to her, and she wasn't explaining anything. She wasn't saying anything. She just looks at me with a blank stare, and she'll just keep walking. And so, I would say like 30 seconds after I like stopped talking to her, she turns back at me and she's like, get away from me. Get away from me. Leave me alone. And then I'm like, Mom, why are you talking to me like that? It's me. And then she just turns around. She just starts walking again. And she's still heading for the mountain. And then I'm assuming it was more than an hour because my cousin finally caught up to us and he's like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on with Mom? And I told him that I don't know what's wrong with her. I said, I really don't know what's wrong with her. And then she's like, oh shoot, she's going up the mountain. By then, we're at the base of the mountain. So he's like, she's going up the mountain. So we're like, okay. And here we started climbing up. And I told him, go on top of go around her and go above her so she don't make it to the top. I told him I'll keep under her and kind of like talk to her. So he's like, okay. So we did that, and she kind of seen what we're doing, and she started kind of walking a lot faster. And I would say she almost made it to the top, and we finally caught up to her, and we're like, I was thinking in my mind, I'm going to hold her down because I don't know what to do at this point. And I don't know if she's going up there to do something to herself. If I don't know what she was doing, honestly. And yeah, and I was so scared, and I was trying to remain calm at the same time. And when we did that, when we finally caught up to her, she looks at me, and then she looks back at my cousin, and she's like, what am I doing up here? And then I said, you don't remember anything? You don't know what you're doing? And then she's like, no, I don't know what I was doing. She's like, how did I get up here? And I told her, you walked over here. We were trying to chase after you, and we don't know what's going on. And then she's like, huh. That's all she said was, huh. And she was just looking around. And then I was like, okay. So I was just like kind of regaining my composure and like catching my breath at the same time. And we were just sitting there. And then I guess my cousin kind of told everyone. I surround my family basically, and they called the ambulance and stuff. And then I told my mom, we need to go down. I said, there's a lot of people looking up here, so we made our way down. But then I noticed when we got halfway down the mountain, I just had this like weird feeling that like there was someone looking at us. So I glanced that way, and the same direction that we came up from, there's like a hill right there. I seen a person standing right there, and I was like, who the hell is that? Like, who's that? Like, they're standing right there where we're walking, where we came up from. And then my cousin seen it, but they didn't really pay attention to it. And I thought that was odd. And I didn't say anything to my mom. And we got down, the ambulance checked her out, said that she was fine. So we made it home, and I was just keeping an eye on her. I stayed up the whole like half of the night keeping an eye on her until she dozed off. Then that's when the night terror started, and she was screaming and crying. And then that point right there, she finally told me, I see some people behind you. And then when she said that, I looked behind me, and there's a wall right there. There's a wall in our wood stove that's right there. And I looked back over there. I was like, there's nothing, Mom. There's nothing right there. She's like, I see them right there. There's 3 of them. And then I was like, okay, I can't see them, so you got to describe them to me. And she said, there's one that's small. It's small and chubby. And she said the other one's really tall. I told her, show me, like, with your hand, show me the height of it. And the way she kind of showed me was like about a good 3 feet off the ground. And then she said the other one is standing next to it. It's a little shorter and it's skinny. And she said they're just laughing at me and looking at me. And she said the chubby one's poking out from beside you like that, poking its head out beside you. And then I was like, okay. And then I remember my dad kind of taught me some stuff, and I went to the wood stove and I grabbed some ashes and I threw it in that general area. And she started screaming. It's like someone like stabbed her, or she was like in some horrific pain, and she started screaming. And she said, they're leaving, they're screaming. She said, don't do that. And I was like, I'm trying to help you. I don't know what to do. I'm just trying to help you. And then finally she stopped. And she calmed down, and she was like trying to catch her breath. And I was like, okay, so what else can you tell me about them? How did they look? And she said, I mean, most of this is explained in Navajo to me because she is not really fluent in English. So she kind of speaks both. So the way she described it to me, she said that the hair was in their face. It was just matted and dreadlock, and it was just bushy. She said they're black. She don't know if they're painted black or if their skin was black, but she said their teeth were really crooked and it was all disfigured basically. And she said she's never going to forget their eyes. She said their eyes were red, and they had like I guess you would say like loincloths on, and they were just standing there. And then she said they smelled really bad. She can smell them, and they smell like I don't know if you ever built a fire outside and you pour water on top of it and there's like a really bad odor. She said she kind of described that to that.
Okay. That's a very distinct smell.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay. So I was like, I was trying to think of every explanation I can think of and anything I can come up with. There was nothing I can think of except for a ghost. And I was like, is my mom seeing ghosts? Like, is that what it really is? So next night, I was like freaked out because I wasn't sure if she was going to see it or not. And my dad came home from work again, and it happened again. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. I'm out of ideas. I'm out of options. So my dad was like, okay, well, let's take her to a medicine man. And she was against it. But then she started seeing them. And then my dad said, just get her into the truck. So we had to like basically force her into the truck, and we drove about 45 minutes from our house, and we went to a medicine man. And she couldn't explain herself, so I had to tell him what I seen and everything, and what we seen, what she was telling me the night before. So he was looking down into the fire, and then when I said that, he just looks at me, and he just gets up, goes to his stuff, and he takes out a crystal. And he just starts looking in there. And he looked at her and he told her, "What did you do with the pottery?" And my mom never she never looked so scared because she looked at him so fast and she was with wide eyes, like a deer in headlight look. She was so scared because she never told anybody except for me and my uncle, not even my dad. So it was just three of us that knew about that. And my dad just looked at her like kind of like an angry look, and he said, "It's the Anasazi that's bothering you. They want their pottery back." And then she was like, "I don't know what happened to it. It was gone when we went back over there next day." And then he looked back in there, and then he's like, "Okay." And to this day, I don't know what he's seen, because I'm assuming he's seen somebody or something take it, but it wasn't the Anasazi. It wasn't nobody, normal person, I'm assuming. But he
But
never told us.
they were haunting her, or
Yeah.
hunting her, because they believed that she had taken it as well. So something else. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's really, really interesting. I wonder if it was that old couple somehow had gotten that pottery or something like that.
That's my idea of it. I mean, I'm not sure it was an old couple, but there's another person that lives close to the area that she kind of found it at, but I'm not sure if he's the one that took it too. So,
But they were watching her. Yeah, definitely they watching her cover it and everything, and then maybe they followed her back, and
yeah.
spirits followed her back and left the pottery as well. And then that is fascinating. What do you think? Do you think that when she walked to the mountains that she transported something else there, like something else was inside her, and then it let go at that time and stayed in the mountains? Is that a possibility, or what do you think?
I'm not exactly sure. I haven't really given much thought about that. I was just kind of assuming that she got possession by it.
Definitely. That I agree with. And I'm just wondering if she hit a point where it was kind of like, it almost was like a hitchhiker and it needed to get to a certain point. Maybe it was a secondary kind of thing. It wasn't just these Anasazi that are watching her, but it was something else as well. Maybe she was at a point where she was weakened and then she opened up and this thing jumped in. I don't know.
I think that's a possible conclusion of it, but like I said, I never gave it much thought of it at that point. I was just more scared of trying to get her from doing something to herself. So, yeah.
Of course. That is terrifying, when you're trying to have a conversation and that person is gone and it's empty. It almost seems like there's a shell there or something else. Yeah, it's terrifying.
And then kind of going back with that story, I seen an Anasazi as well. I guess the name of it would be a Kokopelli. And from what I read and kind of know about it from the Osa Night is that it's a fertility deity. So I seen it on top of the hill close to our house. At first I thought it was my grandma, because my grandma don't live too far from us, and usually she was hard of hearing, so she would play her we have a local radio station that plays just like country nowadays and like the traditional songs and everything. So I thought it was her that was kind of listening to those songs to the radio basically. And I didn't really pay attention to it. I heard it for like a good minute or so, and then I noticed after that, I noticed it wasn't coming from my grandma's house. I noticed it was coming from on top of the hill behind our sheep crowd. And then I was like, I looked back over there and I looked back on top of the hill and I was like, what the heck is going on? Am I going crazy? And then a couple of minutes later, I heard a boom, boom, like a drum. And then I looked back up there again, and then the sun was going down. It was like perfect where the sun was hitting the mountain, and you can see the top of the hill. And I see this like little person hunched over, and you can see clear as day the spikes on his back. It was hunched over, and you can see its hand hitting a drum. And then it walked behind a tree, and it was behind the tree for like less than a minute. I would say like 30 seconds, and it came out, and it was just standing there. And all of a sudden, I heard a flute, the drumming stopped, but I heard a flute, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" Like I didn't know what it was, and then I just looking at it, and then it just like kind of like looked around, like you can see its body turn side to side, and it turned to the back of the hill, and I walked down, and then just then the flute stopped when it turned around and started walking, and it started playing the drum again, and you can hear it fading off slightly to the point where I couldn't hear it no more.
That's incredible. When you were listening to this music of sorts, did did it feel different? Was there any type of emotion attached to it when you heard this music? Was it haunting, or was it just like a melody, or what was it?
Um, I'm not too sure. I was more amazed by it because I don't know what it was because I'm more of a curious person. So, like they say, curiosity kills a cat, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Being quite curious as well. Okay, that's that is fantastic. And did after that appearance of it, did anything happen? Were there any like new births announced that you knew of, or anything like that? I'm interested because this is, like you said, the fertility god
Um,
or
no,
deity.
no, there was nothing like that. But to us Navajos, Anasazis are I guess to put it in a lack of a better term, a demon. It's like something you don't mess with, you don't associate with them, or let alone you don't pick up their pottery. You don't go inside their houses, anything like that. You don't have anything with them, basically.
Fascinating. So, where does it come? Now, do we get into the hand trembling now? Like, do we want to go into it? Because I know you don't have very much time today, and I don't want to keep you for too long. But I would love to have you back, though, Lee.
My
Yes.
family took off already, so they're going to get us a table. So, but
Well, we'll talk for as long as you need to. When you're like, "Hey, it's time to go," then of course I totally understand. But let's get into the into hand trembling. What that or a hand trembler? What that is?
I'm not sure how big your audience is, but if there's any Navajos out there, I don't want them taking this out of context because I'm not claiming to be an expert on any of this. I just tell my stories. So that's a little disclaimer right there.
There we
And
go. Disclaimer out. So let's just
yeah,
take it for face value here. Yes.
so a hand trembler, from what I know, is I would say not exactly a medicine, but is a medicine man because to me, a medicine man knows prayers, he knows the songs, he knows all the things to help heal a person in a ceremony. Whereas a hand trembler is a type of, I would say, a remote viewer in your terms, or a medium, or a psychic, I guess, in a way. So when people come to me for help, they they say like, I don't know what's going on at my house. There's something that's going on. I can feel it. Or they say that there's like a really sharp pain in my side, in my neck, and I don't feel good from it. Or either that they come to me and say, I hear this at night, tapping on my window, something running on my house, my roof. They come to me like that. So my job as a hand trembler is to find out, to, I guess in a way like a doctor would find out how a patient or what's going on with the patient. That's like the similar case of mine. So I would look into the fire, use a charcoal. I have not yet to use a crystal, but I can look into the stars and um, I guess not to sound crazy or anything, but I
Hey,
hear a voice.
you're at the right place. This is people don't sound crazy here. This is where we roam in this type of area. So not a problem.
Yeah, so it's like hearing a voice in my head. It's hearing a voice in my head saying, "This is what's wrong with them. This is what's bothering them. This is going on. This is where it's leading to, and stuff like that." And I got to ask the questions as well, like how is it affecting this person? What can I do? Where can I point them to get the help from? So it's basically like that. And for the term hand trembling, it shakes your hand and it moves your hand around. points to people. And I guess I can give a little story of when I helped out a person where, if you guys watch Don't Whistle at Night's podcast, I have an episode on there. I don't remember what exact episode exactly. I think it was number 36. But in that episode, I talked about love spells. And there was one lady that came to me and she said that she was getting out of a bad, or she's been trying to get out of a bad relationship. So she told me, she explained everything, and I don't want to give too much detail, so, but she explained everything, and I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. So I did it with the fire, and it told me what to do for her. So one of the things was to make her throw up the stuff that was in her. And it didn't tell me what it was. It just said she has bad stuff in her. So I was like, okay. So I used my arrowhead and I started rubbing her stomach, and I brought it to the point right here. And she almost fell back on me, and like she almost fainted on me basically. And just then she kind of regained her composure and she leaned forward, and just then like a red sludge or like red goo came out. And when that thing came out, it smelled so bad. It smelled like a mixture of like a rotting carcass, or like sour, or I can't really explain the smell, but it was really bad.
Like not your typical vomit kind of smell. This was something.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. And it was like I said, like really thick, sludgy and gooey. It's like I don't know if you've seen that movie Venom.
Of course, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Exactly where I was thinking, and I've heard people have thrown up black goo before, but this is the first time I've heard of a red goo. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and after she did that, she kept throwing it up to the point where there was like a little puddle in front of her, I would say, and I figured out what was going on with her, and that was that person that she was with was actually doing it another way of I wouldn't say our tradition, but kind of a thing that we adopted, which is like a peyote kind of way. And he was mixing red dirt with some herbs, and he was sprinkling it on her food. And when he was doing that, he was saying his little things of what he wanted from her, what he wanted to do with her. And that's how he kept her with him throughout those many years, even though all the stuff he's done to her. And after doing all that and getting rid of all that stuff in her, she said it felt like taking off a 10-pound blanket off of her, and there was like so much weight that was lifted off of her. And she said she's never felt so much better after that. And then fast forward a couple of days, she calls me and she told me that person called her back, and she finally had the courage to say no more to that. So that whole thing stopped for her right there. And I think that's probably the one of the craziest experiences that I had helping someone out.
Whatever someone believes or not, if they believe or not, you were able to help this woman overcome a relationship that she should not be in, and be able to have that confidence. So, like, of course, I believe that you helped her remove this toxin, this poison from her body. If someone just believes, they don't believe that, but nonetheless, you still were there to help her and walk her out of this. So fantastic.
Yeah, and that's kind of basically what a hand trembler does. And other hand tremblers, they know the songs, they know the prayers, so that's when you will consider them a medicine man, by my definition. So
that's incredible. Now, you had sent me some pictures. I would love to talk about that. You had sent me a picture, like I said in the beginning here, of a severed coyote head. Can you go into that one a little bit?
So, I don't know if you can put it up, but if you can't, it's...
I will at this time here, yes.
Okay. So that story was from last April. um, me and my dad were at work, and we work construction, so there's really no time that we can really check our phones. But for some reason, I managed to check my phone, and it was my stepmom. And she's like, in the text message, she's like, "What the hell is this?" And then I didn't see the picture. I just seen that text, and I was like, "Oh shoot, we're in trouble, Dad." And then like, cause we buy like bunch of tools and we buy random stuff, so I thought we got caught or something. And then just then I scrolled down and I seen the picture, and I seen the coyote head. I was like, I showed my dad, and then he didn't really like take a good look at it, and then he's like, "Huh," and he just looks away, and we started going back to work, and then she called me, and I was like, I had my earbud in at the time, and I was like, listening to music, and she calls me, and she's like, "Did you see the picture?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "What happened?" And then she was like, "That's a coyote head." And then she kind of went into detail with what it was, what happened to it, and then she's like, I told her, "Hold on, we're about to get off work." I said, "We'll be back up there." And so we went back home, or I went up to my dad's house, and I went up there, and it was still right there where she found it. And that's when she really explained it to me. She said that because she works night, she works graveyard, and she came home that morning. There was nothing right there, so she went to bed, and it was like about 2 in the afternoon. So she got up to pick up my siblings, and she said even then there was nothing right there. And she walked out. She got in the SUV. She drove to pick up my siblings at the bus stop, and that's when she pulled up and she seen it right there. And then
That's a short amount of time that, she just drove to the bus stop and came right back. There was not that much of time, it sounds like. Maybe 10, 15
yeah, it
minutes,
was like
20 minutes at most.
about 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, 30 minutes,
And
yeah.
then, yeah. And then she said it was right there. And then she was like, she questioned herself. And then after like a bit of a little moment she had, she was like, okay, she did see it right there when she left, actually. That's when she remembered that. And then after that, I guess when she finally came home, she finally seen what it was. And she was about to grab a stick and move it. But then like, her instinct took over, and it was like, leave it alone. And then just then it was like, okay. So that's when she sent us the pictures and everything. And then we got home, or we got up to my dad's, and we were looking at it. And then me being who I am, I started poking at it. And then they got mad at me for that. They're like, no way. And that's meaning leave it alone. You're not supposed to bother it. Kind of Navajo, like a sling. And just then I started feeling sick. I didn't tell them that, but I started feeling sick. Like I wanted to throw up, and I got all like dizzy and nauseous. And then I didn't tell them because I knew they were going to scold me and get mad at me. And then that's when my stepmom told me. She called my cousin's sister, and my cousin's sister, she's also a hand trembler as well. So she came over, and on her way over, when she was calling us, she said, throw some ashes on top of it. So that's what we did. And she showed up, and that's when I started getting this weird, like strange feeling like there's somebody watching us. And I looked up to the top of the hill. I just caught a little glimpse of someone standing behind a tree. And then I looked back at my cousin's sister, and she looks at me, and she just kind of smiled. And then she's like, you seen that? I was like, yeah. And then she's like, I know, they're watching us. They've been watching us since we came up. So that's when I asked her, what do you want me to do with this? And she's like, just put it inside of a bucket. But she said, don't touch it. So I was like, okay. So I grabbed 2 sticks, and then my uncle was holding the bucket for me, and we put it inside the bucket. And we basically covered it in ashes and everything. And we went inside. We started doing our thing for it. And she went into detail about it. And she said that it was a person that we know, a person that we're familiar with, someone we're close to, actually, that's doing it. And what she said was that he's new to it. And this is the part that's kind of correlating with everything, is that the fact that he's learning from that old couple that I mentioned earlier. And they sent him over there because they knew my stepmom was sleeping. and they wanted to do something to the vehicles. And he was on top of the house. And my guess is either he didn't tie on the coyote head on, because I don't know if you know what a skinwalker is, but it's a person that wears animal skins. And the preferred skin they use is a coyote. And the head always hangs down over their face, and the skin is draped over the shoulder. And they're always painted, and most of them are always white. They're always painted white, or there's some of them that are black, red. But the main ones that I've seen are white. And she said that he leaned over the edge of the roof, and just then, for some reason, that hood fell off. And as he was trying to catch it, he leaned forward too much and he fell off. And he landed onto our the porch that we have right there. And as he fell, that's what woke up the dogs that were sleeping under the vehicles. And you know how you startle a dog, right? It's going to freak out and it's going to start barking and try to bite you. And she said it bit him in the arm. And he just left the hood right there. He didn't worry about that. He was just trying to get away from the dogs. And it was kind of crazy because you can actually see where like his arm impression was on top of the hood of the car, where he pushed himself up and he slid. And he like his imprint was on the hood basically. And there was like a little struggle right there in the dirt, and he took off running up to the hill. And that's what she was telling us. And she's like, okay, see this. She's like, she pointed me out and my uncle. She mainly pointed me out, and she told me to go burn the coyote head. She said it's using that to kind of listen to us right now. So I was like, okay. And this is like late in the evening when it's almost dark, where it was just like that blue light left from the sun. So me and my uncle was carrying the armful of woods, and I was carrying the bucket down just a little ways from the house. And it wasn't too windy. It was more like a light breeze. And we lit the fire, and we kind of, as the fire was starting to go up, we kind of cleared out the area where we were burning at, so nothing would catch on fire. And it was, we were doing that north of us, about 200 feet away, just right behind my uncle's house. There's a cedar tree, and something started whistling at us, like it was trying to get our attention. And I looked at my uncle, and then I had my handgun on my side at the time too. And I looked at my uncle and I told him, do you want to take a shot at it? And then he's like, no, just leave it alone. And then I was like, okay. And it kept bothering me because I get so annoyed when I hear anything like that. Like if there's a skinwalker around or anything, I get so annoyed from it. I'm assuming maybe that's why they like to pick on me, because I get annoyed from them. But
they get a rise out of you.
Yeah. And we were just listening to it for a good couple of minutes after we're done clearing the brush out. And I noticed that the head wasn't catching on fire. Even though there was a fire on top of it in the bucket, it wasn't catching on fire, like it was made out of metal or whatever. And I told my uncle, I was like, it's not catching on fire. And then he's like, stuff it down then. And then we threw more woods on top of it, and it wasn't lighting whatsoever. And just then, a real strong breeze, a gust of wind just picked up, and it blew some sparks into those bushes. Even when we cleared out a good 10-foot radius, it picked up those embers and it threw it in those brushes right there. So we're both about to run over there, but then for some reason it told me to stay right there, stay put. My uncle ran over there. He grabbed a shovel. He started throwing dirt on there. He put out the fire. And then that whistling, it sounded like it just got louder and louder. And then I kept looking at it, and it just kept peeking its head out like that from that tree. And I told my uncle, I was like, forget this. I'm just going to take a couple shots at it. So I took out my handgun and I took a couple shots. And I know I hit the tree because you can hear it, the thump of the bullet hitting the tree. And even then, that whatever it was did not get scared of it. It just poked its head out, and it just like kind of stayed right there, and it went back. And then I remember I yelled out to it. I told it, if I could hit the tree that you're standing behind, imagine what I'm going to do if you poke your head out one more time and then it didn't do it again. And then just then we're looking down and then the coyote head just just lit up in flames. It just completely burst out in flames and it was burning. And you can actually smell it now, the hair burning and everything. And we just kept like putting more woods on top of it and everything. And it got to the point where the bucket actually started melting on top of it. So that's what helped it even more right there. And it took like about, from the time it started burning, it took a good 30 minutes or so to finally burn the whole thing to the point where you couldn't recognize it as a coyote head. And then by this time it was dark, and me and my uncle walked back up to the house. We walked inside, and then my cousin's sister was asking, did it finally burn? And then she's like, yeah. And I guess something was going on in the house. Well, something was going on with us, but they didn't tell me what was going on because I guess it was kind of something that was meant to stay in there. So I guess that's the reason why she sent me out. Because like I said, she's a hand trembler and I'm a hand trembler. So we're fighting both sides of the story, I guess.
That's what it sounds like. That's what I thought of as well when she sent you out. Of course, because you have the ability to deal with it, and then she's staying inside. She's staying inside for a reason as well.
Yeah, so that's what that coyote head came from.
Lee, I want to say thank you so much. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you said maximum an hour, and we're literally coming on an hour. So I want to say thank you for making the time. I know you had something planned, and I appreciate you actually carving out a little bit of time here for us. And I definitely would love to have you back on and to hear more of your experiences. You said you got like 40, 60 different experiences. I'd love to hear them all. All right, Lee. So thank you so much. Is there anything you want to give a shout out to, or, of course, Don't Whistle at Night podcast is fantastic. Is there anything else that you're doing yourself?
I'm not currently doing anything. I'm just working. I work 6-7 days a week, so pretty busy.
Yeah, you definitely are. You definitely are. Well, you go and enjoy your night out with your family. And thank you so much, Lee. I thoroughly appreciated this.
Yep, you're welcome. And of course, the shout out would be Don't Whistle at Night. You guys hear my stories. There's a whole bunch of Native American stories on that channel as well, that podcast. And yeah, so that's the biggest shout out I can give right now.
Perfect. Yeah, those boys are, that podcast is amazing. I thoroughly actually enjoy that podcast. Thank you so much, Lee.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I want to thank Lee for coming on tonight. That was quite the experiences that he's had. And being a hand trembler as well, I think that's really intriguing, call it hand trembling. At first, when he first reached out to me and he said he was a hand trembler, I was like, what is that? It's something that we have no idea until it's actually explained. And it is remarkable. His stories as well, terrifying. But I would say that Lee is quite brave, probably braver than myself, always going out there and trying to confront and deal with them. Same thing with Dawn and Darren. When we've talked to them in the past from Don't Whistle at Night podcast, they seem to be, maybe it's because it's part of their culture and they're like, yep, got to deal with this. It's kind of like, you got the dogs ripping up the garbage outside. It's like, got to go out there and deal with that. Well, it's the Skinwalker outside. Got to go deal with that. Did I just relate Skinwalkers with dogs ripping up garbage? Well, there was that one story that Darren did tell us about that. All right. So I hope you guys actually enjoyed this episode. I would love to have Lee back on, as well as Dawn and Darren too. So if you guys want that to happen, I want you to comment down below, say, get those guys on, and I'm going to make it happen. And until next time, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.
Beneath the stars where shadows grow, the Nephilim's echoes whisper low. Bigfoot roams through the forest deep, and Dogman files where the brave won't sleep. Across lost history we wonder why, seeking the truth that time tried to hide. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the codex, the mysteries come and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies. Aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks. In the void of secrets, a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the cold gas flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the codex, the mysteries come and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies. Aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks. In the void of secrets, a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the cold gas flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the codex, the mysteries come and always find your way back home. Legends rise from the earth's deep core, a lost legacy we can't ignore. With every step, the veil grows thin, revealing worlds where the strange begins. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the codex, the mysteries come and always find your way back